guys, welcome back to Chaos Core Tech. My name's Garrett, and it is a new year. It is a new me. As you can see, I've shaved off all of the crazy stuff that was growing on my face beforehand. And the little break that I took is finally over, so we are back to models. Now, this one is actually a little bit of a surprise because I was making it for someone, but here it is. This is Wally. Now, some of you may be asking, Garrett, didn't you already make a Wally? And yes is the answer, and you can actually see the feet, I believe. Yep, just the feet right up here. But I actually attempted to make a decently sized robot of Wally, and it sort of worked. For those of you that were not asking that and didn't know about that project, I will put a link, check the little eye up in the corner or down in the description, and you can check out the original video for that. But just keep in mind that it didn't fully work. But back when I made this model, I was getting to know a fellow YouTuber. His name is Travis, and he runs the channel A Pyro Design. And he actually told me that Wally is one of, if not his favorite, Pixar character. And Travis is awesome. He's become a really good friend, so I knew that I had to make one of these for him. But I wanted to make one that was just a figure and didn't have all the broken electronics inside. Now, Travis has a YouTube channel named A Pyro Design where he creates all sorts of crazy cool logos, and he really takes them from something 2D to something 3-dimensional and brings them to life. He actually calls the series Logos to Life. And he and his wife are just amazingly nice people. So I will put a link to his channel. Check the eye up in the corner or down in the description. You guys should definitely go over there, check it out, and if you like what you see, subscribe. Their channel is extremely close to 4,000 subscribers, and I'd love it if we could help push that over the 4,000 mark. Okay, so with that, let's talk about how I created this little guy. So this one was quite a bit different than most of my builds. I had already made Wally, so I had most of the files there, but that one was quite a bit bigger. There was a lot of empty space in there that was meant to be filled by electronics and other things like that. And there's just a few things that wouldn't translate to a smaller model. So I went back into Tinkercad with the goal of taking everything I had for Wally and making it into one solidly printable object. Now, if you watched the original video, you'll know that Tinkercad messed up my file for Wally, so I don't have access to the original document that I was working on Wally in. So I just had to take all of the pieces that I had already and load them into a new Tinkercad file and start assembling them there. Now, I basically just organized Wally into what you see here. And once I had everything roughly in the right place, I went through and laid out the treads all the way around his wheels because originally I had them in individual pieces so they'd be working treads. In this case, I just wanted them to be solid. And after those were done, I started to go through and find areas where there was really tiny details that would not be able to be printed on something this small. And among those were a lot of the tiny details in the wheels here. So this area was completely open beforehand, so I just went through and blocked off the entire back of it and made it a solid piece. That way these turn into more details rather than supporting structures. And as you can see on the back of the wheels, it's pretty much just flat right there. And I did the same thing for the braces to the body down here. I joined them all together. I made the body completely solid because in the big one there's a giant empty space right in the middle of him. I pushed the arms in just slightly so they're more attached to the body and not just one hinge back here because those would break off really easily. And then for his head, the neck, I just put a couple of extra blocks in there. It doesn't look as accurate to what Wally is, but the neck would not be able to support itself very well being this tiny. So I sacrificed accuracy just a little bit to make it a little bit more sturdy, and so the head will not pop off if any force gets applied to it. And so really this was a pretty simple process. Since I had all of the pieces there, it was just a process of going through, combining everything in the right positions, and just making it a little bit more sturdy. Now, after I was done with the model, I took it over to Simplify 3D to get it ready for printing. Now, I actually split the model in half for printing. I split it down this way and then printed them each flat like this, so I needed less supports. I still did need supports, but not as many. And that was just to make it a little bit easier on my wife for painting. You should be able to print him like this, supports, and it'll come out just fine. So then I had the files completely ready to print. I printed them out on my Vinci 1.0 Pro using Hatchbox PLA. I printed it at 0.1 millimeter layer height just to get as much detail as I can because this is pretty tiny and you can see there's lots of little details in there. So after it was printed, I handed it off to my wife. I knew this wouldn't be easy given its size and how much detail's in there, so I felt pretty bad. And this was originally slated to be a Printmas model, but she said she wanted a little bit more time on it. Since we were giving it to someone, she wanted to make sure that the quality was top-notch. And I think that really paid off because She was able to spend a lot of time sanding and getting in there in these small spaces to make it look as smooth as possible. So then after she glued the two pieces together and filled the seam and sanded it a little bit to make the seam a little less visible, she primed the whole thing with filler primer. And that left her with an object that was ready to be painted. And for the main yellow color here, she went to her airbrush, she mixed until she got the right yellow color that she wanted, and then she just sprayed all the areas that needed to be yellow. She let that dry and then began painting the rest of it with just a normal paintbrush and acrylic paints. Now most of the colors you'll be using on here are a really dark gray, maybe black color for the treads down here. You'll also be using a mid to dark gray tone for the eyes up here, the hands, and a lot of the smaller other details around here. And then you'll need a little bit of white for the stripes on the arms. And there's a tiny bit of red if you can see the Wally logo right on there. After all that was done comes the hard part, at least for normal people like me, and that is weathering it. Now I really think it takes a keen eye to weather something properly. And my wife is really, really good at it. So what my wife did is she took a pretty thick paintbrush that has kind of wild and crazy bristles on it that normally you would not want to use, but it's actually great for hitting in random areas and providing kind of a rusting type feature. So she strategically went around and placed different colors on here to make it look like he was dirty and rusting like he is in the movie. And he came out absolutely wonderful. I'll put a little close-up footage here so you can see what he looks like close up. And then, of course, after he was painted and in his complete form, my wife sprayed it with a glossy clear coat, and that just gives it a little shine, makes it look a little more professional and less like you just painted it. And that pretty much gave us the complete Wally that you see here. Now, some of the questions that I get the most often are about what equipment do we use, and most of it is directed at my wife. You know, like what airbrush does she use? Is there any kind of specific paints that she uses? And they're usually pretty complicated questions to answer, but I will put links down in the description to everything that we use to create Wally. Now those are affiliate links, so if you use those, it does help out the channel, but know that you never have to do that if you don't want to. I also get quite a few questions about what specific colors my wife uses to paint these, and she mixes all of her own colors. So I can't give you a specific color, you'll just kind of have to mix until you get what you think is closest. Also, if you wanted to see how I modeled this in more detail, I will put a link down there. I just started up a second channel where I am going to basically dump all of the extremely long and boring 3D modeling files because I have gotten quite a few requests for those, and I think there's something that can help most people. This is mostly just combining things in Tinkercad, but in the future I will be putting my full modeling sessions over there. So link in the description if you want to check that out. And then that wraps up our first model of 2017. I hope you guys like this, and I'm glad that I'll finally be able to send off Wally and Tigger to Heather and Travis. And I've got something else to put in the box that's a secret we've been working on that you guys don't get to know about just yet, but it'll be coming really soon. And like I said at the beginning, make sure you're subscribed to A Pyro Design as well. Alright guys, well thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this new format of the video. I'm going to kind of play around with this until I get it to a point that I like. Let me know if you have any feedback and ways that I can make it better. Alright guys, I'll see you next time.